My childhood friend, my truck ma, brought home a poor schoolgirl who had supposedly lost her memory. He stubbornly insisted on marrying her. But I knew that girl very well. She always used the excuse of amnesia to lure rich young masters at school. In my previous life, unable to stand by and watch him being deceived, I exposed the fact that she was only pretending to lose her memory. And she was immediately driven out by the truck ma family. On the surface he seemed grateful to me. But in reality he sabotaged the brake system of my car, causing me to die in a horrific accident. Before I closed my eyes, I heard his voice through the phone. If you hadn't exposed her identity, she wouldn't have miscarried our child. And she wouldn't have been sold by her family to that old man in the village. You have to pay with your life for our child. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day truck ma brought Lâm Vị Mạt home. Since he wanted to destroy his own future, then the Kha family fortune, I would gladly take it for myself. The feeling of despair when the brakes failed and the violent crash still hadn't faded from my mind when I suddenly heard a familiar voice beside me. Han, you kids are the same age. What do you think about this? The first thing I saw was the anxious face of Kỳ Trần Tu's mother, my childhood friend's mother. I looked around. This was the living room of the Kha family. Kỳ Trần Tu, Lâm Vị Mạt, Mr. and Mrs. Kỳ, and even my own parents were all here. Everyone involved was present. I had been reborn on exactly the day Kỳ Trần Tu brought Lâm Vị Mạt home to force a marriage. Kỳ Trần Tu was arguing with his father, both their faces extremely tense. Lâm Vị Mạt stood weakly behind him, head lowered so no one could see her expression. Vị Mạt lost her memory because of me, Kỳ Trần Tu declared firmly. Now she doesn't remember anything and doesn't know anyone. I'm the only one she has. I must take responsibility for her. He was completely determined, refusing to listen to any advice. Mrs. Kỳ, usually gentle, now looked full of sorrow. My parents could only stay silent, not in a position to speak much. In the deadlock, Mrs. Kỳ turned to me for help. In my previous life I could have brushed it off with a few vague words or kept quiet like my parents. But because of the affection from growing up together, I didn't want the Kha family to be fooled so easily. I had quickly exposed Lâm Vị Màt's true face. And in the end disaster fell on me instead. Having lived again, I would never walk that same road. I smiled at Mrs. Kỳ and was about to speak when Kỳ Trần Tu looked at me like I was his greatest enemy. Afraid I would ruin everything, he stepped forward and warned me. Khan, I advise you not to talk nonsense. Before he finished, his father snapped. Shut your mouth. I gave him an even brighter smile. You misunderstood. I just wanted to say that Lâm Vị Mạt is an excellent student. Smart and talented, you two are very well matched. Hearing that, Kỳ Trần Tu froze, as if he couldn't believe I would say such words. I turned to Mrs. Kỳ. Auntie, since you asked me, I think meeting someone you truly love in this life isn't easy. If I were in this situation, I would also firmly choose that person. It's just a pity I haven't met mine yet. So in this matter I really admire Trần Tu. Even respect him. After I finished speaking, the faces of Mr. and Mrs. Kỳ darkened visibly. My mother hurriedly pulled my arm. What nonsense are you saying? The more you talk, the worse it gets. My father added, she's just speaking without thinking. Please don't mind her, nothing has been decided yet. Just when Mr. Kỳ was about to send everyone away, Kỳ Trần Tu threw out his final trump card. Vị Mạt is already pregnant. Are you going to drive out your own grandchild too? The words struck like thunder. Mrs. Kỳ couldn't accept it and rushed to grab his sleeve. Trần Tu, how could you be so foolish? You're only 18, don't you care about your future anymore? He shook her hand off and said coldly. Mom, you misunderstand. I want Lâm Vị Mạt and this child. And I also want my future. He looked straight at his father. Please trust me. I held back my laughter so hard it almost hurt inside. He really overestimated his own abilities. That Lâm Vị Mạt was never a simple girl. Because of the unborn child, Lâm Vị Mạt was allowed to stay in the Kha house. And with the excuse of amnesia and pregnancy, She was forced by Mr. and Mrs. Key to take leave from school to rest at home. Better to keep her under our eyes for peace of mind, Mrs. Key told my mother at my house. Even so, ever since Lâm Vị Mạt moved in, the number of times Mrs. Key came to visit us increased noticeably. Every time she saw me come home from school, her eyes were full of regret. I once heard my mother say that when I was born, the Key family had suggested arranging an engagement between me and Kỳ Trần Tu. But my parents politely refused, saying they wanted to respect their child's choice. Now it seemed that even with a pregnant woman in their house, she still had too much free time. It was time to find them something to do. I secretly asked someone to pass the news that Lâm Vị Mạt was pregnant and staying at the Key house to her parents in the deep mountains. Calculating the time, they should be arriving soon. One sunny afternoon, as usual, I came home from school and saw a crowd gathered in front of the Key villa. There were more than 10 people, dressed completely out of place with this high-class neighborhood. Using their broken Mandarin, they caused a scene at the gate. I could vaguely hear words like, "Give back our daughter's innocence," and "pay compensation." Mr. and Mrs. Key weren't home, so the housekeeper had to invite Lâm Vị Mạt out. The leading man saw her and angrily grabbed her wrist, cursing non-stop. "You shameless girl, you're something now. Instead of studying properly, you ran off to be a surrogate for rich people? If you wanted to give birth so badly, when I told you to marry old Lou in the village after middle school, why did you refuse to die for it? Today you and the family that got you pregnant must give me a clear explanation." Lâm Vị Mạt was terrified and kept struggling. "Who are you? I don't know you." "Great, now you don't even recognize your own father. You think clinging to a rich family means you can deny your relatives? Don't dream, come back with me now." At that moment, Kỳ Trần Tu returned from school. Seeing an old man pulling Lâm Vị Mạt, he threw down his backpack and rushed over, pushing the man away. "Get lost, who allowed you to cause trouble here?" The man was already angry, and being pushed made him even more furious. "You little bastard, you're the one who got my daughter pregnant, right? I'm her father." Kỳ Trần Tu froze. In fact, the moment he saw the man's face clearly, he already understood. Normally confirming a father-daughter relationship required DNA testing, but the features on Lâm Vị Màt's face resembled this man 7 or 8 parts out of 10. Anyone with eyes could see it. Mr. and Mrs. Key received the news from the housekeeper and hurried back. Another confrontation unfolded in the Key living room. As soon as those people stepped inside, their eyes stuck to the luxurious interior. Father Lam suppressed his excitement, casually sprawled on the sofa, crossed his legs and said confidently, 10 million yuan, give me 10 million and I'll marry my daughter off to your family for good. Mr. and Mrs. Key didn't expect him to go straight to the point like that. Opening his mouth for 10 million, the hands holding their teacups paused. Kỳ Trần Tu was the first to lose patience. "Are you selling your daughter or robbing money? Don't treat people like fools. Besides, Vị Mạt has lost her memory now and doesn't recognize you. Whether you're really her father still needs verification." Lâm Vị Mạt sat in the corner biting her lip, silent, no one knowing what she was thinking. Father Lam didn't get angry at all. He changed the leg he crossed and slowly took out the household registration book. "Whether she and I are biological father and daughter is written in black and white. Undeniable. If you still don't believe it, go do a DNA test. That's not urgent. But the matter of your son causing my daughter to lose her memory, we must settle that carefully." Kỳ Trần Tu couldn't say a word. It was true, he was the reason Lâm Vị Mạt had lost her memory. Even Lâm Vị Màt's expression wavered a little. She couldn't understand how her father had found out about this. Father Lam continued. "Your family got my daughter pregnant at such a young age and even caused her to lose her memory. As parents, we can't have raised her for 18 years for nothing. Looking at your house, you clearly aren't poor, so the 10 million I'm asking for isn't too much." The more he talked, the more excited he became. He casually pulled out a plain-looking young man from the crowd. "This is reporter True. I invited him here to witness everything between our two families. He'll record everything that happens today. After all, this is supposed to be a happy occasion. Right, my in-laws? Mr. and Mrs. Key had been wondering why a lowly countryman like Father Lamb dared to act so shamelessly and confidently. The moment they saw reporter True, they understood completely. This was a blatant threat. If they didn't agree to this unfair deal, Father Lamb would use public opinion to attack them. After all, it was true that Kỳ Tu had taken advantage of his daughter first. And for people in business, reputation was everything. Hearing the words, in-laws, from Father Lamb made their skin crawl. But with reporter True's camera present, they didn't dare act rashly. Mr. Key spoke slowly. Mr. Lamb, it's true my son did wrong. We also accept Lâm Vị Mạt as part of our family. But this matter should be discussed more carefully. Don't give me those roundabout words. Father Lamb cut him off. Just give me a straight answer. 10 million, no bargaining. Money in hand and we won't pursue anything further. Mr. Key had intended to use his usual business tactic of delaying for time. But he didn't expect Father Lamb to be completely immune to it. For a moment, he lost all momentum. The Key family wasn't unable to pay 10 million. But as a seasoned businessman, how could he willingly agree to such a vague and unreasonable sum? While Mr. Key was desperately thinking of the fastest solution, he suddenly heard his son's firm voice. Fine, we agree. Take the money and leave immediately. Don't come here to cause trouble again. And don't disturb Lâm Vị Mạt. Kỳ Trần Tu spoke decisively, completely ignoring the murderous look on his father's face. Hearing this, Father Lamb beamed with joy and patted his shoulder. That's more like it, worthy of being my good son-in-law. Money paid, deal done. Father Lamb left satisfied. Lâm Vị Mạt was officially allowed to stay in the Key house. But Mr. Key didn't forget to settle accounts with his son. You agreed so easily, can you guarantee he won't come back to harass us again? His face was dark, his voice cold as ice. Kỳ Trần Tu clearly hadn't thought that far, but he still argued stubbornly. Adults must keep their word. Besides, the money we gave is enough for those country people to live on for a lifetime. You underestimate human greed too much. Mr. Key snorted and walked away with his hands behind his back. Mrs. Key sighed and silently followed him. Only then did Kỳ Trần Tu realize his mistake. He felt humiliated and suddenly noticed me standing in the corner. What are you doing here? His tone wasn't friendly at all. Well, I've been here the whole time, I said calmly. I came with my parents. Father Lamb had brought a fierce crowd to the house. It was quite frightening. Even though the neighborhood had security and the Key family had servants, more people for support were always better. So I had persuaded my parents to come help, though in truth I was here to watch the show. I blinked innocently. I came to help. More people, more strength. He looked a little uncomfortable. Everything's fine now. You don't need to stay and cause more trouble. The show was over. It really was time to leave. As we walked out, my father patted his shoulder meaningfully. Young people gaining experience isn't a bad thing. Kỳ Trần Tu's face turned red. I laughed to myself. This was only the appetizer. In the future, what he would lose wouldn't be just those 10 million. Since returning, I had kept thinking about why, in my previous life, Kỳ Trần Tu was so determined to kill me. Lâm Vị Mạt and the child were only part of the excuse he forced onto me. The deeper reason was that he hated me to the bone. My existence was a thorn in his eye. After the accident in my previous life, when my consciousness was fading, what had I heard him say? Right, he said. Kha Hành, you're just a woman. Why do you have to compete with me in everything? Since you block my way, you might as well die. If there's a next life and you're still a woman, learn to behave, maybe then you'll live longer. We grew up together, and it was inevitable that both families compared us, grades, talents, everything. I never cared about those things. Just treated them as jokes from adults. But he took them to heart and gradually his attitude toward me became worse. I thought it was just childish jealousy and never argued back. I never imagined he engraved all of it in his heart and blamed me for everything. While I was still cherishing our childhood bond, thinking of him in every situation, he was wishing for me to die. How ironic. Fine then, if he was heartless first. He couldn't blame me for being ruthless. When I caught Lâm Vị Mạt secretly meeting Luthoi Trak even with a pregnant belly, Kỳ Trần Tu must have felt absolute despair. I had said it before, besides him, she had used the excuse of amnesia to hook other rich boys at school. Luthoi Trak was one of the victims, though for some reason they later broke up. Only after that did she target Kỳ Trần Tu. In this life I didn't warn him, so when he witnessed that scene, his reaction was so tragic. I anonymously spread a rumor to Luthoi Trak saying the child in Lâm Vị Màt's belly was his. It was false, but as long as he believed it, it would become truth. After receiving my message, he immediately rushed to find her. During this time, Lâm Vị Mạt was practically confined in the Kỳ house, even though it was her own choice. Mrs. Kỳ watched her strictly, and she couldn't help feeling suffocated. I occasionally visited her, and we gradually became closer. Maybe pregnant women really became softer. Sometimes she confided in me with a sorrowful tone. Khan, do you know? Sometimes I wonder if my current life is just a dream. The past 18 years were too painful, so painful I don't even want to remember. Now that I finally grabbed the life I wanted, it feels unreal. She no longer cared whether the amnesia was real or fake. The goal had already been achieved. Once the distance between us narrowed, some things became much easier. When I hesitantly told her that Luthoi Trak wanted to meet her, her usually calm and beautiful face suddenly showed a crack of pain. My instincts told me, whatever existed between her and Luthoi Trak was definitely not simple. Unable to withstand his repeated pleas, she finally went to meet him in the small forest of the villa park. I hid far away, quietly watching them argue fiercely. Luthoi Trak lost control first, grabbing her hand, cursing and crying at the same time. It was obvious he loved her deeply. If that was the case, if from the beginning she wanted to rely on a rich man, why did she leave him? He was several times wealthier than Kỳ Trần Tu and loved her madly. From a distance I saw her crying too. She rested her head on his shoulder and slowly said something. I was still wondering when another figure entered my sight. Kỳ Trần Tu's roar was incredibly loud, so loud that even hundreds of meters away I could hear fragments. You adulterous pair! Luthoi Trak instinctively shielded Lâm Vị Mạt behind him, eyes bloodshot as he glared at Kỳ Trần Tu. I didn't know what they argued about, only that he went completely insane and rushed at her, but was blocked by Luthoi Trak. The two started fighting wildly, both badly injured. Luthoi Trak was pushed against a rock and broke a leg. In the end, the Kỳ family arrived and dragged them apart. The Lu family soon came and took him away, while Lâm Vị Mạt was kept at the Kỳ house. After all, she was still officially Kỳ Trần Tu's fiancée. He was sent to the hospital, and at his demand, she was taken there too, not for a prenatal check, not to take care of him, but for amniocentesis. He suspected the child wasn't his. After watching the drama end, I began walking through the forest collecting the voice recorders and wireless cameras I had hidden everywhere. I had known she would choose the small forest as the meeting place, but not the exact spot. So I placed devices in every corner. Those tiny things ended up helping me more than I imagined. The result of Lâm Vị Màt's amniocentesis finally came out. The child was indeed not Kỳ Trần Tu's. When Luthoi Trak heard the news, he was so happy he almost jumped out of his hospital bed and nearly broke his other leg. He immediately provided a sample for testing, and the result confirmed a father-child relationship. The baby truly belonged to Luthoi Trak. My quiet efforts to push this outcome all this time hadn't been wasted. This variable was exactly what I wanted. Besides that, the recordings from the voice recorders and cameras answered the questions I had been wondering about. That day, when Lâm Vị Mạt went to meet Luthoi Trak, it was to completely end their relationship. Their entire conversation had been captured. At first, Luthoi Trak was furious, repeatedly questioning why she had left without a word back then, why she had unilaterally declared a breakup. The more he spoke, the more wronged he felt. His eyes slowly turning red. Lâm Vị Mạt sighed, stepped forward to wipe his tears, and finally said, "I'm sorry, I lied to you. The whole amnesia story was fake. The truth was that I wanted the sympathy of rich young men like you. Now my goal has been achieved. With the child in my belly, I can live very well in the Kha family. So unless necessary, we shouldn't contact each other anymore." "Why can't that person be me?" he suddenly asked. She was stunned for a moment. Lu Thoi Trak continued. "I knew the amnesia was fake. Everything you did was just to live a better life. To escape your humiliating past. I knew all of it. Since that's the case, why can't you choose me? My family is much richer than that bastard Kỳ Trần Tu's. He's not even worthy of carrying my shoes. I can give you the life you want too. Choose me, and I swear I won't disappoint you." His voice grew softer and softer, as if those few sentences had drained all his strength. Lâm Vị Mạt, who had been holding an arrogant posture, slowly had tears welling up in her eyes. She took a deep breath, rubbed her belly, and pretended to be calm. "Thank you for your kindness. But as you can see, I already have his child. Forget about me." He pulled her into his arms. "I don't care, Vị Mạt, this is your child, and I'll accept it no matter what. I only want you, just you." After that she said many more things. Something about having her own difficulties. That they couldn't be together. And so on, but he seemed possessed, only repeating one sentence. "I only want you." In this age, a man who loved so deeply and directly like that was truly rare. After watching the video and listening to the recording, combined with the information I had investigated before, I came to one conclusion: Lâm Vị Mạt still loved Lu Thoi Trak. But her goal was too clear. If she wanted success, she couldn't let feelings interfere. So she chose to start over. After leaving him, she targeted the backup option. Kỳ Trần Tu, someone she had absolutely no feelings for. I had to admit, her personal charm was terrifying. Whether it was Kỳ Trần Tu or Lu Thoi Trak, even after knowing all her lies, neither of them cared in the slightest. In my previous life, because of a sudden surge of compassion, I had been too worried about Kỳ Trần Tu being deceived and treated Lâm Vị Mạt as a demon. That led to her being dragged back by her family to be married off, without even a chance to ask Lu Thoi Trak for help. That had truly been my mistake. Fortunately, in this life, all of us had made completely different choices. In the battle for Lâm Vị Mạt, Kỳ Trần Tu ultimately lost. No matter how furious he was, out of fear of the Lu family's power, he had to let her go unharmed. After returning from the Lu house, his condition visibly collapsed. The blow was too heavy for him, so heavy that he lost all fighting spirit and even had the idea of going abroad. In the end he decided to study in Australia. No matter how his parents tried to persuade him, he was determined to leave. On the day of departure, I went to see him off. Seeing me, he still wasn't friendly. "Kha Hành, seeing me this miserable must make you proud, right?" I didn't deny it. I really had come to watch the show, just that it wasn't time to reveal everything yet. I smiled politely and said calmly, "What are you talking about? We've been friends since childhood. It's only right for me to see you off. Take care of yourself alone overseas, or everyone will worry." He looked at me strangely. Probably because he rarely saw me show concern so directly. He answered politely, "You take care too." Then he turned and walked away without looking back. Watching his figure disappear, I thought to myself, he was weaker than I imagined. Just one setback and he chose to run far away. My goal was half achieved. But it still wasn't enough. He left for 6 full years. 6 years later, when he stood in front of me holding flowers, I was a little surprised. He had changed a lot, thinner than before. His skin pale in an unhealthy way. His words were no longer sharp, instead he carried a gentle warmth. He handed me the flowers and smiled brightly, speaking in the tone of an old friend reunited. "Khan, long time no see, I'm back." I looked at him for a long while before giving a polite smile and shaking his hand. "Long time no see." But our relationship wasn't close enough to require such enthusiasm. He ignored the awkwardness I deliberately created and continued naturally. Kha Han, you know, after all those years drifting abroad, I figured out some things. In the past I was too stubborn, cared too much about adults' comparisons, and took it all out on you. I owe you an apology. After saying that, he bowed slightly, looking extremely sincere. If I didn't already know what he was calculating, I might have been moved by this act. But since I knew he was performing, I would just perform along with him. It's fine, I said lightly. We all grew up together. Old friends. Right, old friends. He smiled faintly. Then can this old friend ask one question? Is it still too late to pursue you now? My brain froze for a second. I knew he wanted to get close again. But I didn't expect this method. I stuffed the bouquet back into his hands and instinctively stepped back. Hey, don't joke like that. Seeing my reaction, he didn't get angry. It's my fault for scaring you. But I still want to say what's in my heart. Actually, I liked you since we were kids. I just didn't recognize those feelings and kept treating you as a rival. After years apart, I finally understood my own heart. I know you might not accept it right away. That's fine. I'm only asking for one chance to pursue you. His words sounded beautiful, but I showed no emotion and brushed it off casually. I knew that regardless of his true motive, once he had this intention, he wouldn't give up easily. As expected, not even 2 days later, he began his next move, and even dragged his parents into it. Mr. and Mrs. Key wanted to hold a welcome-back banquet for him and specially invited my parents and me. Over the years, cooperation between the two families had decreased, and after our company went public, we had moved to another neighborhood. The relationship was no longer as close as before, but unable to resist their warm invitation, my parents still brought me along. The banquet was very upscale, less like a simple welcome party and more like a serious negotiation. Just as I predicted, before we even finished a few bites, Mr. and Mrs. Key pulled Kỳ Tu over to toast my parents. After several rounds of wine and flattery, my parents were smiling non-stop. Seeing the timing was right, Mrs. Key held my hand gently and said half-joking, Kha Han probably doesn't know this, when you were just born. We almost arranged an engagement between you and Tu. It's a pity the fate hadn't arrived yet. Now both of you are single and about the same age. And our families know each other so well. Why don't you two try getting to know each other? Hearing this, my parents stopped smiling and looked at me seriously, waiting for my answer. If years ago the Key family and my family had been equals, now they were far behind us. My parents had chosen the right investments and caught the internet wave. I had also started participating in the family business since college and brought back many projects while still studying. Meanwhile, the Key family remained conservative, insisting on slow and steady progress. That strategy wasn't wrong, but in this rapidly changing era, standing still was no different from being boiled alive. And during his years abroad, he had paid no attention to the family business at all. The gap between the two families only widened. Every step in the business world was carefully calculated. Faced with this sudden situation, my parents weren't mentally prepared and were naturally anxious about my response. As for his confession a few days ago, he had already laid all his cards on the table with me. The results of Lâm Vị Mat's amniocentesis finally came out. The child really wasn't Kỳ Tu's. When Lưu Thoi Trak heard the news, he was so happy he jumped up from his hospital bed and almost broke his other leg. He immediately provided a sample for testing, and the results showed a biological father-child relationship. The child was truly Lưu Thoi Trak's. All those efforts I had secretly made to push things along hadn't been in vain. This twist was exactly what I wanted. Besides that, everything recorded by the voice recorder and the camera answered my questions. That day, when Lâm Vị Mạt went to meet Lưu Thoi Trak, it was to completely end their relationship. Their entire conversation had been recorded. At first, Lưu Thoi Trak was furious. He kept questioning why years ago she had left without a word, unilaterally announcing their breakup. The more he talked, the more wronged he felt. His eyes slowly turned red. Lâm Vị Mạt sighed, stepped forward to wipe his tears, and then finally spoke. I'm sorry, I lied to you. The so-called memory loss was fake. Pretending to be pitiful to gain sympathy from young masters like you. That was the truth. Now my goal has been achieved. With this child in my belly, I can live very well in the Kha family. So unless it's absolutely necessary, let's not contact each other anymore. Why can't that person be me? What? Lâm Vị Mạt froze for a moment at his question. Lu Thoi Trak continued, I know your memory loss was fake. Everything you did was just to have a better life. To escape your humiliating past. I know all of that. Since that's the case, why can't that person be me? My family is richer than that Dan guy's. Kỳ Trần Tu standing in front of me isn't even worthy of carrying my shoes. I can give you the life you want to. Choose me, I will never let you down. His voice grew softer and softer, as if those few sentences had drained all his strength. Lâm Vị Mạt, who had been maintaining an arrogant attitude, slowly reddened around the eyes as well. She took a deep breath, rubbed her belly, and pretended to speak casually. Thank you for your kindness. But as you can see, I already have his child. Forget me. Lu Thoi Trak pulled her into his arms. I don't care, Vị Mạt, this is your child. No matter what, I will accept it. I only want you, as long as it's you. After that, Lâm Vị Mạt said many more things, about how she had her own difficulties. How they couldn't be together. And so on, but Lu Thoi Trak seemed completely bewitched. Only repeating one sentence over and over. I only want you. In this day and age, a man so deeply and straightforwardly in love was truly rare. After watching the video and listening to the recording, combined with the information I had investigated earlier, I came to a conclusion. Lâm Vị Mạt still loved Lu Thoi Trak, but her goal was too clear. If she wanted success, she couldn't let emotions get in the way, so she chose to start over. After leaving Lu Thoi Trak, she targeted the backup option, Kỳ Trần Tu, a man she had absolutely no feelings for. I had to admit, Lâm Vị Mat's personal charm was incredibly strong. Whether it was Kỳ Trần Tu or Lu Thoi Trak, even after knowing her lies, neither of them cared in the slightest. In my previous life, because my compassion got the better of me, I worried too much that Kỳ Trần Tu was being deceived. I treated Lâm Vị Mạt as a demon, which led to her being dragged back by her family and forced into marriage, without even having the chance to ask Lu Thoi Trak for help. That really had been my mistake. Fortunately, in this life, we all had completely new choices. In the battle over Lâm Vị Mạt, Kỳ Trần Tu ultimately lost, no matter how furious he was, because he feared the power of the Lu family. He had no choice but to let Lâm Vị Mạt go unharmed. After returning from the Lu family, Kỳ Trần Tu's state was visibly devastated. This blow was huge for him, so huge that he lost all fighting spirit and even thought about going abroad. In the end, he decided to study in Australia. No matter how his parents tried to persuade him to stay, he was determined to leave. On the day he left, I went to see him off. Seeing me, he still wasn't friendly. Kha Hành, seeing me this miserable, you must be very pleased, right? I didn't deny it. I really had come to watch the show, just that it wasn't time to reveal everything yet. I smiled politely and said calmly, what are you talking about? We grew up together after all. Seeing you off is only right. Take care of yourself out there alone, or everyone will worry. He looked at me with a strange expression. Probably because it was rare for me to show concern so openly. He answered politely, you take care too. Then he turned and walked away without looking back. Watching his figure disappear into the distance, I fell into thought. He's weaker than I imagined. Just one setback and he chooses to run away to another country. I could say my goal was already half achieved, but that still wasn't enough. Kỳ Trần Tu left for 6 whole years. 6 years later, when he stood in front of me holding a bouquet of flowers, I was a little surprised. He had changed a lot, thinner than before. his skin pale in an unhealthy way. His words were no longer harsh like before, instead, his attitude was gentle and warm. He handed me the flowers, smiling brightly, using the tone of an old friend reunited after many years. Khan, long time no see, I'm back. I looked at him for a long moment before giving a polite smile and shaking his hand. Long time no see. But our relationship had never been good enough to warrant such enthusiasm. He didn't seem to care about the awkward distance I deliberately created and continued naturally. Kha Han, you know, during these years wandering abroad, I figured out some things. Before, I was too stubborn, too concerned about what the adults said, so I took my anger out on you. For that, I want to apologize. After speaking, he slightly bowed, his attitude very sincere. If I didn't know what he was planning, I might really have been moved by this act. But since I knew he was acting, I would just act along with him. It's fine, we grew up together after all. Right, old friends. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Then as an old friend, let me ask one question. Is it still in time for me to pursue you now? My mind blanked for a second. I knew he wanted to get close to me, but I never expected this kind of approach. I shoved the bouquet back into his hands and instinctively stepped back. Hey, don't joke like that. Seeing my reaction, he didn't get angry. It's my fault, I scared you, but I still want to say what's in my heart. Actually, I've liked you since we were young. I just didn't recognize those feelings back then and kept seeing you as a rival. After years apart, I slowly understood my heart. I know you might not accept it right away. That's fine, I'm only saying it now to ask for a chance to pursue you. His words sounded nice, but I showed no reaction, brushing it off with a few vague sentences. I knew that no matter his motive, once he had this idea, he wouldn't give up easily. As expected, less than 2 days later, he started his next step, and even dragged his parents into it. His parents wanted to hold a welcoming banquet for him and especially invited my parents and me. Although cooperation between our two families had lessened over the years, and after our company went public my parents and I had moved to another area, the relationship wasn't as close as before, but unable to refuse their enthusiasm, my parents still took me along. The banquet was extremely high class, more like a serious negotiation than a simple welcome home dinner. Just as I expected, before we had even eaten much, his parents pulled him over to toast my parents. After a few rounds of drinks, their flattering words made my parents laugh continuously. Seeing the timing was right, Mrs. Key took my hand and gently rubbed it, half-jokingly saying, Kha Han probably doesn't know, right? When you were just born, you almost got engaged to Tran Tu. Too bad fate hadn't arrived yet. Now both of you are single. Your ages match, and our families know each other so well. How about letting the two kids try getting to know each other? Hearing that, my parents stopped smiling and looked at me seriously, waiting for my answer. If years ago the Key family and my family were on equal footing, now they were no longer comparable. My parents had chosen the right investment directions. Riding the internet wave, I had been involved in the family business since college, bringing back many projects. Meanwhile, the Key family remained conservative, insisting on stability. That strategy wasn't wrong, but in this rapidly changing era, standing still meant falling behind. And during his years abroad, Kỳ Trần Tu had completely ignored the family business. So the gap between our families grew wider and wider. Every step in the business world was carefully calculated. Facing this sudden proposal, my parents were naturally nervous about my response. And his confession a few days earlier had already laid all the cards on the table. His next move was obvious to everyone. I calmly pulled my hand back, looked at Mrs. Key, and answered seriously. I'm sorry, but I don't love men who have loved other men. The moment those words came out, all 5 people at the table froze. My father was the first to react. He jumped up to stop me. What nonsense are you saying? Eat your food. But I could clearly see that he had breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't stop. You didn't know? I thought everyone already knew. Since we're all family here and the topic came up, I'll just be honest. I grew up with Kỳ Tu. He looks decent and logically would be a suitable marriage partner. But he once loved a man in Australia. I absolutely can't accept that. Otherwise, after marriage, I wouldn't just have to guard against women but also men. Khan, shut up. He almost gritted his teeth. Seeing his reaction, I felt extremely satisfied. You wanted to scheme against me? I was already holding your weakness. Even without the memories of my past life, based solely on our not-so-good childhood relationship, only a fool would believe that after 6 years without contact he suddenly returned claiming special feelings. This banquet was a pretense. Their real goal was to use old ties to gain support. Because the Key company was declining and needed a powerful partner, my family was their best option. And I had directly slapped them in the face. After that, he came to explain. Han, it wasn't like you think. I was forced. The environment abroad was complicated. I was framed. I ignored him, surprised at how much he had changed, once so arrogant, now able to lower himself like this. 2 months later, due to broken capital chains, the Key family declared bankruptcy. He stormed into my office. Khan, you vicious woman, why did you treat me like this? His face twisted with rage. This was his true self. The reason was simple. After the marriage plan failed, his family tried to play the emotional card, hoping we would help, but after careful consideration, we refused. His parents were later prosecuted for fraud and other crimes and sent to prison. Overnight, he fell from a wealthy young master to the son of criminals drowning in debt. I looked at him calmly. He must have known that over the years I had secretly gathered evidence and exposed them. Then bought their company at a low price during liquidation. Now the former Key company had become a subsidiary of Kha Group. 2 families once equal, now worlds apart. But what he asked wasn't about that. Was what happened to me in Australia your scheme? I smiled slightly. Yes, that white man had been arranged by me. But if he hadn't indulged himself in that chaotic environment, how could I have found such an opportunity? Why did you do it? He glared at me with hatred. I closed the file and asked calmly, let me ask you something. If back then I had exposed Lâm Vị Mạt, causing her to lose the child and be forced to marry an old man, what would you have done? I would have thanked you. No, you would have hated me and killed me. I'm just using your own methods on you. He went mad, shouting curses. I finally lost control and yelled out everything from both lives. He was stunned, because every word hit the truth. In the end, I had the guards throw him out. 3 months later, unable to endure poverty, he sold himself to a wealthy pervert. One ordinary morning, I received news of his death, found naked, chained, body twisted in a horrifying posture. I closed the report calmly. Understood. Inform the directors, meeting in 10 minutes. And that was how this story truly ended. Living once more, I would never let anyone bully me again. The road ahead of me would surely be wide and bright. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.